This week on Tabletop Witchcraft, we have one building that transforms in seconds into a handful of either good or evil buildings. In the first corner, we've got the Holy Chapel, a library or a church. On the other corner, we got the Sinister Chapel, a mausoleum, or a dark crypt. Who's gonna win? That's for you to decide, and it's this week on Tabletop Witchcraft. Hey there, welcome back to Tabletop Witchcraft. This week we got a really exciting build, but before we get to that, I just want to mention something real quick to my subscribers and potential subscribers out there. I was going through my YouTube analytics this week and noticed that only 11% of my subscribers have hit that bell for notifications on all my new video releases. That means only 11% of my subscribers are actually getting sent my videos from YouTube. So if you go ahead and subscribe, which I hope you do, make sure you hit that bell notification for all my future video releases. So this week, we got this temple right here, chapel, whatever you want to call it, and it can be transformed into something good or evil in seconds, simply by changing the front statues, the floor, the door, the lights on the inside, the top of the bell tower. All can be done within seconds. Want to learn how to do it? That's this week. I'm going to do it right now. So let's grab some supplies and let's get crafting. Alright, so you want to head on over to DriveThruRPG and print these off. That's going to really cut down on your time for making this craft here. I cut all these pieces out in about 30 minutes with the plans, but if you don't want to do that, that's fine. The floor plan is a 6x6. The walls are a little bit taller than my usual build because we're going for a chapel or a temple here. So as you can see, we can cut out from the plans these stencils to get our angles exactly right for the roof. So once you've copied those over, go ahead and make those cuts on a Proxxon or with a Olfa knife. They don't have to be super exact because you're going to be covering this anyway. As you can see, you can use the plans to cut out the end walls as well. And just by sticking a little bit of glue between those, you can ensure 2 equal cuts. Then go ahead and use some hot glue and glue obviously the whole thing together, making sure to leave that little bit of 1/8 of an inch. You can see it on the left side of the wall exposed, because what we're going to do here is, instead of rolling the XPS foam, I want to show in this build how you can use the XPS as a framework and use just regular foam core board, which takes the roll a little bit better from the rolling pins. So here's what the XPS foam looks like using the XPS rolling pin here. I made this in a previous video. You can check the link above to check that video out. And as you can see, I mean, that's a pretty awesome look right there. It took a couple of seconds and we got all our brickwork done. And you can see how the foam core fits nicely in there. And I'm going to show you here what that looks like rolled. Just got a little bit more definition, not much more, but you know, it's an option. So once you have that, you're going to go ahead and apply some hot glue around the perimeter, and then follow this design here, because later on in the build we're going to cut out these walls for the windows, and it just makes it a little bit easier when you're not trying to cut through hot glue. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and head back to the plans, and we're going to cut out the entrance to the chapel here. Cut that out, lay that on a 1-inch piece of XPS foam, and cut that out on the Proxxon. And then layer by layer, you're going to keep cutting out the stencil and tracing it on the foam. And this is going to give you all of your cuts that you're going to need to make. That way you can have the entrance tiered or kind of set back in itself once you're done. You'll see what I'm talking about here in a minute. So once you make all those cuts, you see how you can kind of just push everything back, and it adds a really nice depth to the entrance here. So once you get it set to how you want it, all that excess XPS foam there on the back, right there, you just cut it all off on the Proxxon. And then we're going to go ahead and use the roller here to add some texture to the front. And again, before you use the rolling pin on any of this stuff, you want to make sure you use some aluminum foil to texture it first. And on these smaller pieces, I'm using this tool here that I've talked about in a previous video, in that rolling pin video. You can check it out there. It's towards the end of that. I'm just using a hot pin to cut out a circular window here. You want to make sure you got good ventilation when you're doing that. Now we're cutting out a 1¼ by 1¼ piece of XPS foam, and this is going to be mounted to the all the tops of the entrances. You're going to need 3 of these. One for the top right, one for the top left, and one for the top in the center. And then this little piece here is just going to get mounted over the door. Alright, once you get all the pieces cut out, it's as simple as taking some hot glue and just gluing everything together. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and take some hot glue and glue these top pieces on, and then we're going to work on the door. So score the door, put about 4 or 5 scores down that middle, accentuate those with a pen, and then add some fine woodwork to them. Then cut out some cardboard for the roof, get those on there, and then take a pen and continue your brickwork just around the corners of the building. Now we'll head back to the plans, and we're going to use this stencil right here just to get the layout of where the buttresses are on the side of the building. And obviously, I mean, you can go ahead and just eyeball these two if you want, but I'm just trying to get it as exact as I can. Now we'll go ahead and just add a little bit of an angle to the tops of those, stick them all together and roll them. And you can really see how much time we're saving here by using these rolling pins. Then go ahead and just carry the brickwork around the side of those. And we're going to stick a barbecue skewer up the middle with a little bit of hot glue to really stiffen those up. That way they don't break during use. And then we'll stick a couple of barbecue skewers on the back side of those little buttresses. Add some hot glue and then stick those right into the wall. Making sure not to get any hot glue on the bottom part that's going to touch the floor, because we don't want it to stick to it. And then just hit it up with some Mod Podge, black glue, black paint rather. And again, we're going back to heating this up. You can just use a scalpel knife just to carve this out. You don't have to heat it up. But we're going to insert some magnets here, and that's what's going to allow us to change the statues that are going to go on top of these, to change this build from an evil build to a holy build, depending on what statues you have. And then make sure you add a little bit of hot glue over the top of those. It keeps the magnets from pulling out. These are some really strong magnets that I have in the description below. And go ahead and trace out the window on the front here. And then take a pin and put a little hole in there, right in the center of it. Because what we're going to do is we're going to put a diode through that to light up these windows individually. I like to put a little hot glue around that just to make it a little bit more sturdy. Then we'll go ahead and just add some texture to a little bit of brickwork that's going to go around the window. And then we'll insert a window into that. There's a video I'll put up top, description, if you want to check it out to see how I make all these windows, plus 4 other options for windows. It's a really good video. And once the lights turned out, these windows really illuminate really well. They're awesome. In the background there, you can see all the different window options to that video that I just mentioned a minute ago. And these frames are made by Shifting Lands. They make an excellent window frame. All right, now with that diode in there, we hot glue the front entrance on, slide it in place, again making sure not to put any hot glue on the bottom part that's going to touch the floor tile. That way it doesn't stick to it. And then go ahead and cut out the entire entrance to the front here. And once you have that, just continue your larger stone pattern around the entrance, cleaning up any little bits of foam that might be hanging off there from your previous cut. And then we'll roll it, add some stone texture, and then add some brickwork around the base of the floor tile. And as you can see here, I'm putting a little line towards the top because we're going to turn that into wood, and the bottom's going to be stone. All right, now we're going to go ahead and insert a magnet here. That way we can swap the door around. And we'll go ahead and just put a little hot glue over that. All the items in this video you can find in the description below to some Amazon links if you're interested in the exact items that I'm using. And you can see here how the door will just snap right into place. Now we're going to go ahead and add some hardware to the door. Some hinges, a door handle. I'll put a card above to the video on how I make these door handles. I make a bunch of these ahead of time. So when I'm in the middle of a build, I don't have to stop and break out green stuff and create those. It's a quick, fun video to make a whole bunch of these. You can crank a whole bunch out, and really in a half an hour or so, you can have yourself a half a dozen or so of these, and they look really nice. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and mark out the windows, and I'm just gonna cut these out. The plans will show a different style. I decided to go ahead with some shifting lands windows, but you can cut out just the plans from the windows from the plans themselves if you want to go that route. Now we're gonna make the topper for the bell tower. Again, you can do anything you want here. You can use a different miniature for the top of the bell tower, or come up with any design you want. I'm going with a round dome here for the good portion of the chapel. And this is just a circle jig that I made to cut obviously some circles out with XPS foam, but you can buy one of these. Shifting Lands makes one, but again, they're not really hard to make. And I'm just taking a little peg here, putting in a toothpick just to make a little bit of a spire coming off of the top of the bell tower. And we're going to go ahead and mount that to a 1-inch miniature base. And I'll show you how to make the bottom of those magnetic here in just a minute. And this is what the evil portion of the bell tower is going to look like. Basically, we're just cutting a little bit of a pyramid out of some foam. And then we'll go ahead and cut out a little bit of trim that's going to go around that to cover the plastic base. And then we're going to insert a couple toothpicks into each corner, so you have 4 of those sticking straight up. And now we're going to make the bell tower itself. So cutting it out of the plans, we'll cut that out and trace that over onto a piece of foam. This is a 2-inch piece of foam that I'm using. And just use a marker to trace out your cut line. And on the Proxxon, we cut that out. And then using the plans, or you can just hold it up to the building roof line itself. You can mark out where you have to cut so that it'll fit flush. And then go ahead and make this cut right here, just above the top of that V. And then cut out on all 4 sides, which is only 2 cuts, that circular pattern. And you'll be left with a shape like this. Then before you mount it back onto the bell tower, mark a round, that round circle out right there, because you're going to cut that out. Then inserting some toothpicks into the 4 corners of the bell tower to sturdy it up. You're going to add a little bit of tacky glue and put the piece back together. Alright, and then Mod Podge that piece and then hot glue it right in place after you have cut out the hole on the top of the roof. And here's just a bead that I found at a craft store and some chain as well. for the bell. You can use anything you want here. And we're gonna go ahead and put a little hole in the top of the bell tower and insert the chain through, glue it in place. And then just a little bit of a pad here that we're gonna add some brickwork to for the top of the bell tower. This, as well as the 3 pieces in the front of the entrance, are gonna have magnets in them to magnetize the statues to. Now with some citadel skulls, I took some orc skulls and holding a little slip ring, I think it's called. I'll have that in the description below as well. I forget the name of it. Just hold that right in place on the citadel skull with some hot super glue. And this is like an insta set. You spray this on the super glue and within seconds it's completely cured. It's really awesome stuff. Then I just painted the skull a bronze color. I use Vallejo paints when I'm working with this type of stuff instead of craft paint. And then hit it with a black wash and Nuln Oil. And then go ahead and do a little fine dry brush of gold. Did the same paint pattern here on these hinges. And again, those hinges I've made out of green stuff as well. We'll glue those in place. And now we'll go ahead and just use a tiny little bit of super glue. We'll be okay here because we've Mod Podged this styrofoam or the XPS foam. But again, you still want to be careful and just use a little bit. And again, back to that Citadel skull pack, we're gonna put a few skulls on all 4 sides of the tower here. Now I've got a couple of Reaper miniatures. I've got 2 Pillars of Good, 2 Pillars of Evil, Mortar the Gargoyle, and Brother Vincent. And we're gonna paint all these up for our good and evil statues that are gonna decorate our chapel. Now here's how we make the base magnetized. A little bit of hot glue, put in a 3/4 inch washer into the center, add a little bit more hot glue in the center of that, and then again with the magnets that I'm known for using, we're gonna go ahead and put one of those right in the middle on the hot glue and press it into place. Then you can put a little hot glue on that, press it on some parchment paper, and you're all set. So now we're just adding a little bit of, I guess, framework around the top of the roof and around the edges. You want to make sure you cover all the edges so you don't see the edge of the cardboard. And then I thought this was a little too industrial looking, so I'm turning this metal into wood. Just carve some wood grain right into it, not a big deal. And we'll go ahead here in a minute, we'll paint that brown. And then we're gonna go ahead and add some wood frame to the corners here to cover up that one seam. And now for the base on the good side, we're gonna do it brown, like a chocolate brown, dry brushed with a honey brown, and then using a Vallejo brown wash, we're gonna wash that piece. And then we're gonna do a dungeon tile basically here, washing it with a black wash, homemade. If you wanna see how to do this above, check out the card for the dungeon tile video. That's essentially what this is. It's just a little bit larger dungeon tile. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and paint the whole thing a dark gray. Now we're gonna pick out certain bricks and we're gonna add a little bit of brown to that dark gray and add a few dark brown bricks. Then we're gonna take a lighter gray and add some dark brown. So it's kind of like a muted brown. I'm gonna paint some of those as well. You can see here, I'm just redefining a brook line. So go ahead and pick and choose what you want here, how you want it to look. And then finally, we're gonna go ahead and take that gray and add just a little less brown so we have another variation of gray in the stonework. All right, now for some patina for the copper roof. My recipe, 40% like a slime foresty green, 40% light blue, and 20% yellow, like a bright, bright yellow. Add some water to that, and you're good to go. It's an absolutely awesome look to age copper. So go ahead and just paint that on there. You want to make sure you get a bunch in the seam, and once you got one section done, move on to the next and let it kind of cure on there for a little bit and dry before you go back and work on that section. So as you can see, the left side is almost done. The middle I just painted, and I'm working on the right side. It's all about layering and going back and touching up what you've done, trying to get that weathering look. Here I'm adding a little bit more of that patina. Now I'm just kind of addressing where I want to remove it. Adding a little bit of it's dripping down here a little bit where water might have been dripping. And then I'll go back and I'll just wet my finger a little bit and just rub the center of it just to kind of shine that little piece up just a little bit. Now we'll take a light gray and dry brush all the stonework on the entire building, making sure to hit the edges a little bit more than the face of the brick, going in a downward pattern. Then once that's dry, hit the whole thing in a black wash. And once that's dry, go back one more time with a light gray, medium to light gray, and hit all your edges one more time, really trying to go just in a downward motion. Then you can add the windows, pop those right into place. Now for the topper, for the bell tower, I'm setting a little, some rhinestones, some purple rhinestones here with some super glue. Just add a little bit of color. Now we're taking out the airbrush. I'm not going to show you how I'm painting every one of these, but I'll give you an idea on the basic concept. We're going to go with your base color here. For these, it's a dark gray or medium gray. Then from a 45-degree angle or a little bit steeper, more like a probably 60-degree angle, we're going to hit it with some lighter white, basically giving it a zenithal prime. And then we'll take some Nuln oil and wash the piece. Then we'll go ahead and paint the detail. The gold, the green leaves, the pink and red roses going up the side of the statue. The sword, I painted that silver. Okay, so you can simply go ahead and change this from a good to an evil chapel. All you gotta do is remove these statues that we painted up. Right here, 3 of those. Remove the top of the bell tower. All right, go ahead and remove the door. And on the inside here, you can flip that over. So now you got more of a dungeon tile for a floor. Before you put the door on, you can add any color light in there. You can add a UV light to have purple coming out, or a red light showing some light out through these windows here. And then you can take a different color diode, any color you want, for the front and back window to produce some light there as well as coming out the bell tower. Flip the door around to the evil side, put on your evil topper there, and a couple more statues on each side, whatever you decide to go with, and one there in the middle. And you went from a holy temple to a sinister chapel just like that in seconds. And here's what it looks like.
So, who do you think was the winner? Was it the Sinister Chapel or the Holy Chapel? Leave a comment below and let me know what you think. And also leave a comment and let me know what you think about some future videos on some airbrushing and miniature painting techniques. Until next time, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that bell notification for all further videos here on Tabletop Witchcraft. Until next time, I'll see you around.